Алло, чутно? Насправді буде дуже складно мені, я дві складнощі бачу вже після
Hopefully you can hear me. Well, I think it will be pretty complicated to run this panel because the previous two panels have been high-level panels. But I know that these panel's participants are no less important than the previous big companies. And I have also another important task. I have to be a good time manager because we are the last panel before lunch. And we have to go for lunch on time. That's why please be very active. Of course, ask your questions. During the previous panel, there were many questions from the floor, but let me remind you that the colleagues who are online with us are also welcome to ask questions in the chat. And if you are here offline with us, please raise your hands and our assistants will hand over the mic to you. It's a very good opportunity to ask your questions because a very strong team from the customs service is present today. So let's be very active. And during this panel, we are going to talk about NCTS. I'm recalling a situation when we had to communicate with our foreign partners from the shelters at the start of the war, and we were really uncertain of what was going to happen, and our foreign partners were really concerned, but the Ukrainian party said that we are going to continue, we are not going to lose the momentum, and the Minister of Finance has joined. The legislation has already been developed, yet the implementation was lying ahead of us, and irrespective of the customs services efforts, we still had to continue working. But today you have heard what the EU representative said. The achievements are really impressive, and everyone knows that the European Union grew from the customs union, basically, and every customs union at the moment is based on the respective IT solutions. And of course, we can't help but mention NCTS in this respect. And NCTS means a robust tool for declarations. And we Our intention was to uh, introduce you to the companies that uh, fulfill all possible operations. They ship the goods, they receive the goods, they provide brokers services, they provide logistics services, and so on. So you will learn about their success stories. Maybe you are still not aware of some peculiarities. Here we will listen to big importers and big retailers and some companies um, faced with difficulties when launching T1 procedure. But during this session, you will learn how to combat your fears because you might be afraid of doing something new, but if you try once, you may be successful. And now we will listen to the companies that are ready to continue working in this mode. And I am ready to introduce our new panelists one by one.
Western Container Terminal, Olena Chikinda, Head of Customs Interaction Department. And I've already mentioned supply chain, and this company actually, which introduce the transit of cargo by railway transport using T1 declaration. And then, of course, with the support of the state customs servants and our representatives in the Brussels, which participate in working groups, we continue our cooperation with European partners to make it possible for our business to be able to use a comprehensive guarantee as a credit card in every member state of the convention, and just to full the potential of Ukrainian comprehensive guarantee in Poland, for example, and other EU member states. And this is like a part of the introduction before I give floor to Ms. Chikinda. And I would like to ask Olena to share their experience and their success in T1 application. Or maybe say there is some negative experience, not only a success story, and we're always ready to get any type of feedback. Good afternoon, everyone. And at the beginning, I'd like to say a few words about our company, our activities. We're a modern logistics hub in the heart of the western part of Ukraine, in Ternopil. We deal with the intermodal transportation of containers by the railway transport. We work with the European and Ukrainian ports. We have regular trains with the fixed transit time. We have a lot of achievements already in this area, and we are the only company in Ukraine that received a window in Baltic Hub in Gdansk port, the first Ukrainian company that received it. We are developing an agrarian area. We trade grain at the international market. We also use here the road and railway transport to supply it to our terminal. We're a young company because we were established in 2017, but I can see that we've already developed a lot and come a long way. As for simplifications, as for the NCTS, and as an AO status, I cannot say that this is an easy task. It is always difficult, but I can say that this is systematic activities with the support of Ternopil Customs Office responsible departments, and as a result of these joint efforts, our company received a range of simplifications, including transit one. As for practical application of transit simplifications, because our current panel is dedicated to transit activities, everyone is always interested in numbers. I can share them. During the previous panel discussion, everyone asked about numbers. We do not ask you to share all the numbers, but as for the some shares, actually I calculated that because I was interested. When it comes to the common transit system, we have different areas where we operate. First of all, these are transit declarations for export goods in simplified mode, thanks to simplifications of the authorized consigner. And here, when it comes to what we've said, this is around 70%. 70% of funds and time. We use trains, and that's why time is of critical nature for us. Before that, to get declarations for transporting goods on the territory of the EU member states, they were received at the border, so we had to wait for Polish customs office to clear all the formalities. And when we file transit declarations from our terminal in Ternopil to a terminal in a port, we save time and money for when it comes to clearance on the border. We started using a common transit system before we got simplifications, so we used the general procedure with the involvement of customs inspectors. We still use this possibility, but only for those goods where we are not an owners, but we provide transportation services. Another area of our activity, these are internal transit declarations that we file using our comprehensive guarantee. So when the goods are supplied by train and then they are transported by a road transport to the customs office of destination, which is defined by our customer, we have around 100 declarations, 100 per month. And the third case, these are clearance of import goods, import cargo under our comprehensive guarantee in the territory of the EU. We save here around 36% for one declaration, and we file more than 1,000 such declarations a month. As for the general simplified procedure, we have up to 1,000, around 1,000 per month, and in the territory more than 1,000 on the EU territory, and internal transit around 100 declarations per month. As for challenges, actually, we don't see any significant challenges. Yes, there's some issues during our everyday work, and we were the first in Ukraine to clear a train with grain using common transit procedure. And back then, actually, I contacted and called NCTS help desks than my mom. But actually, that was an interesting experience. I would like to recommend this to everyone because it's really very useful. And now we are constructing one more intermodal terminal, and it will be a bit bigger than in Ternopil in Volyn region on the border with Poland. And yes, we do plan when we have such an opportunity, when the infrastructure of the terminal will be in line with the requirements to expand transit simplification to cover our terminal in Volyn Oblast. Thank you, Olena, for this information, and thank you very much for sharing your success story. And I have a question, maybe it will be an interesting question of interest also for the online and offline audience, about the usage of Ukrainian comprehensive guarantees in Europe. Generally, is it a difficult path? Do you need cooperation with someone? Can you provide some general information about without details? Because we have a lot of questions about how this can be applied, and we say that this is a new process, and for every country, it's about IT software, which can be different in different EU member states. Do you have any advice or recommendations of how you organize this? Actually, we need to have a willingness of another party, of the declarants, and in our case, these are Polish declarants who have some requirements, so we need to register our guarantee in Poland to get some confirmations. But I cannot say that this is something extremely
У
difficult.
вас кооперація з брокерським
So yes, we have a broker agency. We cooperate with this agency that helps us with all the documents. And we've first tested one declaration with them, and we saw that it really works. So we continued our work there.
працюєте з залізницею.
You also work with the railway transport a lot.
Які стосунки от вас з польською залізницею?
What relations do you have with the Ukrainian railway service and with the Polish railway service?
Чому вони ще не отримали спрощення? Чи
Haven't you asked the Ukrainian railways why they still don't have any simplifications, or why am I asking about actually Polish railway service?
Ви по суті своєю гарантією переміщення товарів з Польщі в Україні
So
покриваєте
you use your guarantee
суб'єкта процедури, який би мог би
to
виступати
cover the subject of the procedure there in Poland. It could be like Polish railway service. But you do this instead of them. Thank you very much for your question. Actually, we haven't seen any problems in our cooperation with the Polish railway service, and actually, because most of the service is in private ownership, so we haven't seen any difficulties with them. We even actually had a case when some goods were stolen on the way. We had such a case when some goods covered by our guarantee were stolen. And that happened in the territory of Poland, and we do remember this case. Yes, a lot of people still remember it. And we had a good level of cooperation with the Polish side, with the Polish declarant, Polish customs administration. They supported us to the maximum extent possible back then. And when it comes to the Ukrainian railways, this is one more example of the high quality cooperation between our business and the state. And we cooperate with both railways, and we believe that these railway services are our partners. There are some issues, but we believe that our partners and we are not those partners who say that it's impossible. We're always able to settle all the issues. Thank you very much, Olena, for your honest replies. And I don't think that these are the last questions you get today. And I can see some questions in the eyes of our audience, and they will have the possibility to ask them. And let us get to the next company. I think all of us have this mobile app with the red icon. And now I'm talking about Nova Poshta company. This is Vasilina Zalutska, representing the company, which can speak about an example of using T1 declaration that can cover several hundred items. And it can be done with the NCTS, so there are no issues with this. Our developer and our app, Hermes, you have more than several thousand transit declarations filed during previous year. And of course, the forecast for this year is at least the same number. And I think that you will get one more null in this number. That's why today we are ready to listen to your story about how you apply common transit. And also you can share your numbers if you have any calculations, if you have any information about the percentage, and share. So Vasilina, the floor is yours. Please try again. Good afternoon. My name is Vasilina Zalutska. I'm the head of the Department of Customs and Brokerage Operations for Individuals, Nova Posta company. We have the employees in our company dealing with the international parcels. In 2023, we made the decision to open the sorting station to get the status of international express care. In 2025, we received the status AOC. And nowadays, NCTS declarations are a very simple process because at the beginning, we filed declarations by an old method. This is this transit procedures with tier carnet. We named the code, the relevant code for our cargo. But when Ukraine became a part of the Common Transit Convention, we had to create long declarations for more than 3,000 headings in one declaration. So when I said my number, that was too small. But yes, this is about goods, but we have a lot of headings in our declaration. We failed at first. That's why we connected NCTS help desk. Thank you very much. You were always ready to support us. So this is not thank you to me. This is to our unit. These are our superheroes. And they really supported and helped us a lot. In parallel, we improved our internal IT systems to be able to generate big files, to cover a lot of headings. And of course, it took a lot of efforts. And then we made a decision that we need to increase the number of our customs clearance agents because one declaration takes around 30, 40 minutes because they are rather big. And now, every day, we have around 15 declarations to one for experts from Ukraine, and one declaration can contain 7,000 cargoes or parcels of individuals. So the biggest advantage for us, this is border crossing. Before that, it took around 5-7 hours, and now it reduced to 3 hours, so 2 times less, and that's really great. And one practical case I'd like to share. So that was with our driver in route to Lithuania with T1 declaration. That was for the first time for the driver, and he was really impressed that he traveled straight to the customs office because that was an authorized consignee. So, and the driver was heading to the facility of an authorized consignee, and the driver was so impressed that he asked us to do this every time because he was able to save a lot of his personal time. We also had faced some challenges from Polish colleagues, from their inspectors, because we had some goods that should undergo the veterinary and phytosanitary control, and they wanted some actual confirmations, and they used to return our goods back to the sorting station. And so we had to repeat all this procedure with T1 declaration. And Vasilina, we need to understand here that every country has its own limitations when it comes to how they get goods from the customers. And when you have some goods from your customers, you need also to understand what PCPs will be used for the border crossing to avoid these returns. Yes, we were in contact with the Polish customs administration. We have our partners there. And so I think that this issue has been already settled, but of course, everything could happen. And that's all from my side. Thank you. Thank you for presenting your case, your success story. Generally, you've actually shared your challenges, but I can say that big companies, as DHL actually, who also have these long declarations with a great number of headings and items, So this is a standard business model for such companies covering such activities. When it comes to time reduction, do you have any information about funds? No, I don't have any information. We didn't calculate money, but the fact that we don't use carnitine TR anymore, this is already this also helps us to save money. Thank you very much for your answer. And the next company is Выгодна покупка, represented by Petro Babi, head of the Customs Clearance and Regulation Department. This is a well-known company. This is Aurora company, and actually you can see the shops of this company even here in this hotel. Oh, you need to work better, actually. You need to say this to your CEO, because you can see the shops of Aurora everywhere. What I'd like to say first about this company. This is an example of a company who clears its good on their own. This company is import-oriented, but the company uses Ukrainian comprehensive guarantee in other countries. This is also an interesting case. And you can also share this information, whether it's your cooperation with brokers and how the process is organized. And please generally share some numbers, maybe about your savings. Just the floor is yours. Yeah, thank you very much, dear participants. And first of all, I would like to thank organizers for the possibility to share our experience.
It's really valuable for me that I can learn about the other colleagues' experiences. And as I was getting ready for this panel, I expected that we were going to talk about involving new players and new simplifications envisaged by NCTS and AOA. But as far as I see that we already have a big community of those players that already use the combination of the benefits provided by these tools. Each and every can benefit from them in terms of planning and optimization of business processes. We import goods from 14 countries. Last year, we had to complete several thousand declarations. The geography of our supplies is very complicated. Our goods from China and from India arrive in 3 European seaports, and from there they come to Ukraine. Then we also have some goods from Turkey and from the European Union. What do all those shipments have in common? They go through the countries that are signees to the Common Transit Convention. And that's why it's really important to standardize the handling of transit cargoes. Therefore, it was our motivation to start working under the common transit procedures. Several years ago, we managed to complete the first T1 declaration. It was in 2021, 24. And then we had a very complicated piloting period. In 2024 and 2025, Polish customs service switched from the fourth to the fifth phase of NCTS. Ukrainian system at that time was already on the fifth phase, and we had several agents. We had to develop the standard mechanism for working with each of these agents, counter-agents from Poland. And now I think the Polish counter-agents were knowledgeable themselves, but at that time, of course, they had to learn together with us. There were some practical steps which we had to accomplish, and it took us several months to complete those processes. And after those several months, we fully switched to T1 declaration for foreign cargoes. Last year, we completed 900 declarations. Altogether, we have already 1100 T1 declarations. I'm sorry for interrupting you. You work in the capacity of the authorized cargo receiver, right? No, not yet. We are just planning to get the status. We complete the T1 declarations at the place of location, but I will tell you a little bit more about other peculiarities related to the guarantees. So altogether, for about 30% of our cargoes are cleared under the simplified procedure, common transit procedure. This procedure has clear advantages in comparison to the national procedure. First advantage. There are common rules and standards for all countries that the convention signees. It is very important, especially when something happens to the goods while they are moving across the convention member country. Fortunately, we have not yet experienced such situations, but we also had an incident when a vehicle um, got an accident in Bulgaria. There is a clear protocol and the communication was very fast. So if something happens during the delivery, during the journey, the situation can be sorted out much faster, and everything is clear. All protocols are in place, so we don't have to look for additional information. This is a big benefit of common transit procedure. Then another benefit. Today we are talking also about the new customs code. As far as I understand, the unified rules will be provided by this code, and I'm calling upon our companies, please test the common transit procedure right now, because it will be the only procedure for us in the future, and the sooner we start, the better we will manage to adapt. I'm going to interrupt you. You know, it is very useful to apply T1 declaration internally as well. It's a very big benefit for you. And another benefit of the common transit procedure is its flexibility compared to the national procedure. There were some incidents in our situation when we had to rechannel our cargo due to military risks. Instead of Kiev, we had to ship our goods to Lviv. Under the national procedure, it would have been impossible anyway, but for all those military risks, we would have delivered the goods to Kiev first and then send it to Lviv. But under the common transit procedure, it was totally possible to rechannel the goods. So the procedure is very flexible. And in fact, we have a lot of economic benefits since we are granted the relief. We can boast of significant savings. We calculate the amount of money deposit. Previously, the deposit the deposit provided to the customer service was individual in each and every case, but under the common transit procedure, we started using the general guarantee or the common guarantee for all goods, and the amount is 2.4. The guarantee used to be 2.4 million hryvnias, and now it's just 300,000. And then we applied for the relief, and now we can save even more. So we have more money in free circulation. What about your facility? Well, it's still under construction. Yes, we will be able to complete the clearance beyond the place of at the place of location, but we are still contracting the terminal, and we expect that we'll be able to save for about 9 million hryvnias. So it's a big issue for us. Thank you very much for your sincere responses. Now, let's continue our panel discussion. The colleagues from the companies said that it's very difficult to express the benefits in monetary terms. In fact, the AOE status is a good way to position the company on the European market. Some time ago, there was a discussion in our department about the simplifications. We spoke about the place of goods arrival. One of such places has already been attacked twice, and the companies just wanted to avoid arriving to this place, and the broker said, we work here for 49 years and it's very convenient here. But then there was a question. Just imagine that you can avoid those risks by completing clearance at the place of location. Just imagine that you do not have to invite a customs officer or other employees. You will do the clearance instead of the customs officer and just send the respective report. And you'll also save money because the vehicles won't have to get to the terminal. And I was watching the face of a person who was asked this question. This information just was not disseminated, and maybe some organizations really do not focus on the European integration. Those cases, those simplifications are very have a very positive impact on business. It's not that easy to get all those simplifications, and it's really worth doing so. And now let me ask Ms. Natalia Demchenko, we are not relatives, it's not my spouse, so there is no conflict of interest. This is the representative of a transportation company, Ukrtrans agency. This is an example of a company that provides services related to T1 declarations. Basically, they provide their guarantees for the companies. They work a lot with the declarations. They are the leaders in this market of guarantees. That's it, basically. That's it. What else can I say? Natalia, over. Thank you very much for invitation. Thank you. Let me focus on our experience. Ukrs Trans Agency is a customs service. We have been operating since 2007, and our main focus was with the transit movement of goods, and we had representatives at the border of Ukraine, and then we joined NCTS, and we started working with the convention countries. We were the first company that submitted T1 declaration to the Customs Service of Ukraine. At the moment, we have already completed over 200,000 T1 declarations since 2014. That's why we are knowledgeable and we are ready to share experience. Our main service is T1 in Ukraine and other convention countries, including Turkey, Moldova, and Georgia, and Great Britain. Then we also provide some additional services that are required for transit movement of goods. We also help with the customs clearance in Ukraine and in Poland and Germany using various customs modes. And CTS has practical benefits for business, definitely. Let me share main benefits. That's the electronic messages exchange, the opportunity to track the status of declaration, and then you can also control the declaration, having full information about the declaration. Um, our declaration department, works on tracking and communication in close cooperation with the customs brokers of Europe. The first challenges we faced with were the adaptation of business and technical issues related to acceptance of our declarations. Polish customs offices, for instance, at first did not accept our declarations, but gradually we managed to sort it out, and now our declarations submitted by Ukraine are accepted by the Polish counterparts. And of course, the support provided by NCTS is huge. There is a hotline, and there is a help desk, and we also participate in testing of three channels of a help desk. It's great that the system is developing, and thus we can resolve many issues related to coordination with other customs services. In Ukraine, it is very convenient to use a Tier 1 declaration as an alternative to the national procedure. It is also very convenient to open a T1 in the internal customs offices, and it is possible to open it at the border, the Ukrainian border, what our customers often resort to. And it's convenient because there is no language barrier, unlike other countries. Then our offices also work at the border in Ukraine, and this support sometimes helps to eliminate certain barriers. And we also have an opportunity to use our own guarantee when the goods are moved from Poland. We open a Tier 1 declaration for goods arriving in Polish seaports, and thus our Ukrainian customers do not have to complete the preliminary declarations or alternative or general declaration. The customer has just to open the Tier 1 declaration and in Poland, and with this declaration the goods can be moved to Ukrainian territory. We also work with the partners guarantees in other countries. With nearly every convention country, we manage to open the Tier 1 declarations. Additionally, we work with expediting companies or logistics companies for our customers to get full scope of services, including logistics services, container handling, scanning, inspection, inspection in EU countries. We provide all those services and support for business. At the moment, we face with some conservative approach from the part of some entities. What is implied? They are used to open T1 declarations in Europe, and it is difficult sometimes to convince them that they may try and open the T1 declaration in Ukraine in the internal terminals. And it can be really smooth if it happens, but the drivers are often reluctant. But we are working on that, and we would like to assure you that this is a very flexible option, and we'll be ready to give you a helping hand throughout the entire process of open and closing declaration, T1 declaration.
This also boosts international cooperation, and would be great if we can have more possibilities to use Ukrainian guarantees in other counterparts of the convention. We have such experience only in Poland. With other countries, this is a partnership guarantee. It would be great if we could continue developing this, and this is great actually that Ukraine is a party to convention, and we can use the same simplifications as other EU member states. Thank you, Natalia, for sharing your experience.
Що можу сказати? Дійсно, з поляками і вже Владислав на першій сесії говорив той приклад,
And
що
Vladislav already actually told about this during the first session because we had to move to other border crossing points on our border because Polish colleagues did not understand that their role was already different because the situation had been changed and we had around 10-12 cases of such discrepancies. But during the last year, we have not seen any complaints about these cases in our help desk. There are some minor errors that we help to correct. So Natalia said that there were 200, and generally we had 208. And I think that perhaps you now counted all your declarations, including those that were rejected. I'd like to clarify, we calculated all the declarations that were filed not only in Ukraine, but these are the all general number of declaration in our activity for the whole time. Those submitted in Europe as well. And of course, that there is a big number of European declarations where your guarantees are used. Because, as I've already mentioned, you are a leader here. We've discussed the experience of our panelists, and I can see questions now from our audience, so please raise your hands, ask your questions. Our panelists expect your questions as well as representatives of the State Customs Service. Don't forget to introduce yourself. I've already introduced myself. I'd like to continue asking questions from back rows.
Це Аврора, наскільки я
This is
бачу.
Aurora, yes. I'd like just to add a bit information to what Petro has already said. We're talking a lot about European and EU integration, but I think that digitalization of our customs service is significantly ahead of what the European partners can offer. And here I have a proposal to you. We receive information in a single window and in a chatbot and in broker software. But when it comes to but when it comes to T1 declarations, we don't have a lot of information, unfortunately. In our company, and I know this is also the case for other companies in Ukraine who maximize digitalization of customs processes. And today our colleagues shared information about their electronic accounts. And when it comes to Tier 1 declarations and about border crossings, about clearance, that would be great if we can get this information from our customs service. Of course, we understand that perhaps IT systems are great isolated, but that would be great if you can initiate this internally and with our partners. Thank you very much for your question. And actually, Aurora has a very powerful customs team. And Petro shared with us the advantages, and now Maxim can share disadvantages. I have an answer, and I would like to give floor to beautiful lady. Last time I called her a woman, and she didn't like that. This is Alina Brindak, the head of IT department in the customs service. Last time it was not that polite to say.
Дякую за можливість на нього відповісти.
That was kind of a little lady. Thank you very much for this question. Thank you very much for the possibility to answer this. Of course, we are well aware about these requests from business. We have already introduced this function, the notification about border crossing point and about arrival. And I can say that we will do the same for NCTS. And you do understand that the NCTS is our pioneer software when it comes to the software developed by an external company, and so first those developers create the function. So we develop functions internally, and then we introduce this in the CTS. The same is with the guarantees, and the same will be for notifications. So please stay tuned for the updates. But this perhaps will be quite soon, but after the Easter. So it will be after the Easter. You've heard her. Okay, so Alina says that it will be already right after the Easter, then so it will be. I can see here the question from Alexander and Ila. Okay, Ila Zivnitsky, the head. Do you have the question to everyone? This is the question to everyone. Ilya Zimnitsky, the director of the Customs Brokers Association of Ukraine. I would like to thank very much all the participants for sharing your experience over the last several years, which were rather difficult for all of us. And I have a question now. Who is actually responsible for your success stories? This is the question about your staff. After you got those simplifications, do you have any requirements to customs agents, in particular when it comes to advanced training? Thank you. Petro, thank you very much, Ilya, for this question. We discussed a lot today the authorized economic operators, the simplifications. When it comes to an AO, and we actually are an AOE, because we just didn't participate in the previous panel. But when it comes to an AO status, these are the simplified procedures. And actually, to get these statutes, we introduced regular training. And so we introduced this training in our company. This is for our employees responsible for IT. This is not just a training to meet the status, but this is a periodic training for transformation, to be in line with the transformation, and this is also to learn more about best practices. And the AO status as it is encourages to introduce training for your personnel. This is the first thing I'd like to say. And the second important result of this status, this is the compliance monitoring. We should remember that this status is not the final goal. We need to meet these criteria all the way through and after that. That's why we have self-check for all the operations of our company. And just to be able to have this self-check, we need to continue our personal training. Thank you, Petro. And who else would like to answer? Natalia? We have a lot of T1 declarations, and of course, we train our personnel to be well aware of the legislation, to be able to communicate with the customs offices, not only in Ukraine, but in other countries, because we faced a lot of issues with customs administrations from Poland to Germany, to less extent the Netherlands, and we expand our partnership. And here, not only training for personnel is important, but also the software product that is used to create T1 and submit it later on. Now we are developing with our partners the cloud version of a software program that will set a lot of issues related to the status of declaration, that will demonstrate opening and closing the declaration in a real-time mode. It will also allow just to store the information. So I'd like to say that automatic processes are important, but we still need to remember about our personnel, about our people. Those who fill out T1 declarations, these are those people who work 24/7. They don't sleep at night, and would like to thank them for being able to cope with this volume. Any other questions from the audience? Alexander Lazarev. Good afternoon. Alexander Lazarev. Yes, here I have a question not only about those who use NCTS, and unfortunately I was expecting a log, the launch of this convention in our state, but we do remember the situation with our ports now just and we would like to have more adequate procedures for our ports to be more traceable. Do you have any information about alignment of the customs code with the simplification of CTS, the closure of the export procedure by another procedure. So somehow it is not included in the customs code. So export procedure cannot be closed by transit procedure by the new customs code. And I have one more question. What is the situation with Moldova now after what we had with the breach in Mayaki? Is there any possibility to transport Ukrainian goods through the territory of Moldova using T1? Let us start with the second question, and we can start with the first question.
Ні, ну зараз питання, Олександр Петрович. Будь ласка, Владислав і Олександр.
Vladislav, Alexander, I can give you a floor. Good afternoon, everyone. As for Moldova and Georgia, we're always in contact with the colleagues who submit documents from the office of the president, because these documents shall be initiated by the president. We cannot do this merely through the government. And in a week, as we expect, this document will be submitted. We hope that this will happen. And this is not only about technical issues when it comes to Georgia, Montenegro. But we should also remember here about safety issues during transportation through Moldova. And unfortunately, we all witnessed the situation in December, because it is not only about economy and taxation anymore, but this is also the question of safety. We can see now that there is significant burden on the unit that directly deals with the preparing the documents to be submitted for to the president. And to continue with Mayaki, we hope that this will not be repeated, but of course we've learned our lessons. We changed customs regime 82. This is the transit of customs goods, and their amendment to provision 1091 to deal with such customs procedure. Unfortunately, this not cancels the national requirements on in the territory of the Republic of Moldova. We expect the ratification of changes. And when it comes to the first part of the question, so it requires a lot of details, and now we can actually discuss it during the lunchtime, but not always. Tier 1 declaration, which is filed in Ukraine, is used in Europe, so the movement is not always covered by this declaration. Sometimes broker company can make a mistake into one. The Polish side does not accept it, so there are no seals there, so it is revoked by a broker. But when it comes to VAT return and automated closure, I don't think that we should do this. We should so it is about automatic reimbursement. It still shall be discussed, but we can't make this like one decision. I cannot agree here. When you file an export declaration, you open TR Carnot, you don't close the customs regime through this. Of course, I do understand that there is a tool, and our Ukrainian companies, operators, would like to develop it in the future. But we are just exchanging ideas here. I'm not against of this. I just say that this is a disputable issue, but it's still there on the table. Thank you very much just for remembering about this. Thank you very much for this. But this is not such a simple situation. And just to add, when it comes to the NCTS, so still we have this issue with the electronic queue, but we do understand that this is out of your power. Thank you very much for your support. You really help us to deal with this issue. We have a question from Tatiana. Tatiana Zavit, the head of the Light Industry Association. Thank you very much. And first of all, I would like to thank you for such a practical and such a practical conference that has so many experts gathered here. In 2022, the association asked for help in June. So during the first panel, we heard about who deals with harmonization. This is Alexander Moskalenko, this is Vladislav Suvorov, and these are other representatives of the State Customs Service. But then we asked Alexander Moskalenko for help to present the information at the European conference, a sectoral conference. Just we would like, back then we wanted to say that our government did everything possible despite the war to ensure harmonization. And I would like to thank Moskalenko for the presentation shared back then.
саме тоді, в червні місяці 22-го року, при тому,
So
що ми
that was the first anchor back then in June. So, and actually,
продовжуйте з нами працювати, бо ми
European
працюємо.
partners asked us just to continue. We told our European partners that we are ready to continue our cooperation. Now you say that we have 117 authorized economic operators, and I have a proposal. So Sergey already mentioned this today. We are all the time cooperate with the State Customs Service. Would like to thank all the departments involved for the support. But what can we see in the regions? Even during our latest workshop, we asked about the algorithms and conditions for authorizations. Today we see beautiful big companies who have really big teams, including brokers and other experts. We can see how they apply authorizations, but when it comes to light industry, 220 companies and 117 authorizations, and we will have 118. This is one of the companies which is the member of association. So what I'm trying to say this, maybe it will be great to have awareness-raising campaigns in sectors in different regions. 80% of our companies that operate, they are expert companies, and they use the raw materials which is provided them. I'm sorry, Tatiana, just get right to your question. And so a lot of heads of companies are not aware about special regimes and special procedures they can use, for example, like on-site customs clearance, or they are not aware about other mechanisms which they will get, but for that they need the expert sectoral support in terms of awareness raising. Thank you very much for your question. Actually, when you mentioned the latest workshop that we had with the separate members of your association, back then we said, and now we say, and we continue saying, telling that the State Customs Service is always ready to support any association if it is needed. We started these activities in 2022. And those simplifications that we are discussing today, these are not the amendments to the legislation this year. These are the amendments dating back to 2022 when we joined the convention, and those simplifications became available for our companies. And back then we started such awareness-raising activities. If someone somehow missed it, still these workshops can be found on the YouTube channel on the State Customs Service, or you just need to be willing to watch them. And as for the regional local customs offices, they are also oriented and ready to provide this support. And we are always ready to provide more information. And when I asked one of the head of the company, director of the company, about whether the company asked for any help to their local customs office, they told me that no. And of course, we are pioneers here, and but I'd like to say that we need to be ready to support each other, including the regional level. Today, I'm not talking about associations. Of course, we have full common understanding of all your integration processes, but here companies should also be willing to ask for the information. If a company doesn't want to organize any of these processes, then the company will not be able to get to the status. And it is not only about simplifications, it's about any other area. And some other questions from the audience.
Доброго дня всім.
Доброго дня.
Козак Віктор, голова
Good afternoon. My
регіональної
name
ради
is
Волинського
Viktor
рівненських
Kozak.
областей,
I represent
Асоціація міжнародних
the
перевізників України.
Association of the
Сьогодні я, напевно,
International
перший виступаю як перевізник. Мені дуже приємно
Transportation
було
Companies.
слухати, бо ми
It's
є
a
таким,
great
знаєте,
pleasure to
однією з ланок
participate in this event. You know,
транспортування
we
цих
are
вантажів, і без
one
нас
of
ви також
the
ніяк не
elements
працюєте.
of
Сьогодні
transportation
дуже
network,
добре,
and
що
you
така
won't be able
платформа
to deliver your
відбувається,
goods
і
without
ви
us. It's
знаєте,
a great deal
авторизація,
that
авторизовані
we are having this
оператори,
platform
ми
meeting
це
today.
бачимо, ми це
We
відчуваємо, як воно
witness
є, як
the
воно діє. Ми це
operations
бачимо не
of
тільки
the
в нас, ми бачимо
authorized
будь-яка інтеграція в
operators.
Євросоюз, це
We
дає великий плюс.
understand the
І ми
situation,
бачимо
and
це як
we
відбувається це в
are aware of
Європейському
the fact
Союзі.
that
Ми не бачимо
integration
митника,
with
ми не
the EU
їздимо, не
gives
переїздимо від
a lot of benefits.
пункту
But
завантаження до
we
митниці, бо там дороги дорогі. Нам
uh,
це не потрібно.
do
І ми
not
їдемо
go
просто в
to
країну без, тобто
other
маємо
countries. It's
забезпечення вже
expensive.
тим же
It's
самим
expensive to use the
вантажовідправником.
roads, and
Автоматично з
we
нашої сторони
find
ми
it
бачимо
much
таке саме.
easier
Але
to
що ми бачимо
travel
на кордоні?
within
Коли ми
Ukraine.
повертаємося
But
назад,
what do we see
їх
at
немає
the
зі сторони
border?
Європи, немає
In
електронної
Europe,
черги. Сьогодні слово
they do
звучало,
not have
щоб
the
швидше запрацювала,
electronic line, the
щоб
electronic queue,
авторизований
and
оператор міг право
the
працювати з
authorized
цією
economic
електронною
operators
чергою, тобто
should be
їхати поза нею.
entitled to
Сьогодні є
this
тільки
fast
111,
track
117 авторизованих
option.
перевізників.
Today
Після
we've
цієї
got
платформи,
117
почувши, які є
AOEs, and
переваги, їх
I think
збільшиться і
after
збільшиться.
this
Я знаю, що
platform
вже
there will be
нашляху до
more
цього дуже
AOEs
багато.
because
У мене буде
they
сьогодні
would
не
have learned
запитання, а
about the
навіть таке,
benefits. And
це таке
it's not a
побоювання
question from me,
міжнародного
it's
перевізника.
rather a concern
Розумієте,
of
коли будуть
an
їхати поза
international
електронною
transportation
чергою,
company.
ми будемо,
You know,
наприклад, є черга на
we
3 доби, це
know that
25%. Ну, кожен
there
п'ятий
are
має їхати поза
very
чергою,
long
на 25%
queues,
нас буде відкидати
and
назад, і ми будемо просто
some may
стояти
wait
далі
for
на чергах.
3
Всі
days.
авторизовані будуть їхати
And
поза чергою, ми відкидаємося, ми стоїмо по 3,
but
4,
if
5
the
черги.
authorized
І в мене таке,
operators will
знаєте,
cross the
якби
border
прохання
without
до вас, я хотів би
this
сьогодні сказати про
queuing,
ситуацію,
we
яка
will
є
have to
на
wait for
Хрещатику
even
з
more than
8
3
лютого. Буду говорити
days.
сьогодні про Волинь,
And
саме про Яворів,
mainly, I'm
поляки
talking
проживають
about
там, і
the
це
Volyn
свої
Oblast,
дороги.
which
І ми
borders
бачимо, коли на
Poland.
сьогоднішній день з
That's my
польської
region.
сторони
I
ця
live
черга
there,
вже
and
добу,
we know that
тобто якби на добу стоїть 11 кілометрів, і воно
the
проходить буквально за
queues
добу,
may
а то
be
і менше.
11
І отак. А
kilometers
от з
long,
нашої
and it
сторони
takes all those
підтвердити митний органи
vehicles
працюють на
uh,
висоті, і все це нормально.
just one day
Тепер,
to
що
go
стосується при
to go
експорті
through, thanks to
в руху
our
на
customs service.
Європейський Союз,
It's on
знаєте,
our
був
side.
підписаний вже давно
And
меморандум про 600
some time
автомобілів
ago,
за добу,
a
вантажних
memorandum
автомобілів,
was
і
signed about
після того
600
відбулося,
trucks. But what
митниця, вона дуже
happened
багато в
then?
Волині є з
We were
ініціаторів, просто
one of the
перевести
Я
companies
вас
that
попрошу, можете завершувати,
initiated.
тому що
I'm
виконуємо
really
обмежений час, коли у
sorry.
вас немає
Please
питання
finalize your
Дивіться,
question
я
because we
хотів би
haven't
таку,
run
ми
out
перевели
of
навіть
time.
розсилок,
Yeah.
поляки рахували, чого поляки рахували, вони все, що більше 3,5 тонни, вони рахували, що це
The
дуже великий вантажний автомобіль.
Polish
І ми перемістили тоді 400 300
customs
за добу, а вже решта
believed
їхали маленькі
that
машини.
all
І
trucks
зараз
over
меморандум не було
3.5
600, хоча
tons
все
are
поперевозили
related
і
to
пасажирку і
the
так
big
далі.
trucks
І так і
category, so
залишилося.
they
Тобто
had
я
to
хотів би, щоб ми
use
всіми зусиллями
we had to use smaller
запрацювали з
trucks.
усієї сторони.
So I
І ми будемо
wish the
звертатися до уряду, так як
customs
сьогодні були
service
представники уряду,
and
збільшити
other
кількість автобусів.
authorities
І ведеться
increased
переговори про
the
збільшення,
number of
тобто
um,
розбудови митних
border
терміналів як на українській стороні, так і польській.
crossing
Тобто, щоб польські
points
колеги більше
because the
брали, і ми
Polish
ефективніше проводили
Дивіться,
colleagues
ви правильно сказали
were not
розбудова. Тобто
very cooperative. Yes, you are
на ваше
right,
питання чи на
saying
ваш
that
коментар
we
таке,
need to
що
develop
кожен
the
пункт-пропускник,
infrastructure.
він
But
має пропустову і
every
паспортну спроможність для провезення. Та цифра в 600
border
вантажівок, вона ж не просто
crossing
так
point has
формулюється.
its own
І щоб
capacity,
змінити
and
більше,
those
очевидно, треба
600
знайти
trucks
розбудову і збільшення потужності.
were
А це
really
не завжди
can really be
така
explained
історія
by
не
this
раз розбудувати.
capacity,
Тобто
but
це
it's not that
тривалий
easy. The
шлях.
infrastructure
Це перше.
cannot be developed
Це перше, що хотів
overnight.
сказати свій коментар на
It's
ваш коментар.
a
Ми цю
time-consuming
історію візьмемо до
process.
уваги, будемо там
So, of
дивитися
course,
вслід
we
наскільки,
will
але
investigate into those
є речі, які
problems.
треба
But
погоджувати
of
з тою стороною,
course,
і це
some
все
issues
опирається, ці
should
технічні
be
аспекти,
agreed
в
with
кожному
the
конкретному
counterpart,
випадку.
and
А
everything depends, of course, on the
першому вашому
technical
коментарю,
capacity of
то ви
each and
хотіли
every
сказати, щоб ви
individual
також
border
їхали
crossing
не
point.
на
And
митницю,
I would
збираємо,
also
збирали бізнес
recommend you to avoid coming to the customs to the customs zones at the border, because business uses the simplified procedure now, and it can complete the clearance at the place of location. And I wish you could go to their facilities instead of some overseas terminals. Yeah, thank you very much. And dear operators, please use the services of the Ukrainian transportation companies, because we are the best. Thank you. Yes, the Association of Road Transportation Companies, I think, can also be the platform for advertising. So we haven't run out of time. I do not see any other hands raised, and now let me announce a lunch break. I have a very important task. I have to invite you to come back after the lunch, because there will be another important panel dedicated to new steps to follow up, and there will be very interesting speakers. Please come back at 3 p.m. Thank you very much.
Оголошується обідня